My biggest success and biggest failure before Tesla was Amazon. I bought Amazon in 2013. So like F5 networks, I think 5x'd. Foundry networks went up maybe 3x. I forget how much before I sold them. So Amazon 13x'd. But it was my biggest mistake because I didn't buy enough.
How does it start from playing to become so confident about one stock where the previous fundamental books say you shouldn't own one stock at all, Warren? So please take me through that.
So fast forward to 2016, I've seen the rocket land. I'm looking into Tesla and I'm like, you know, there's something here. They've got something. This is special. Started buying stock. December 21, 2015. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm obsessed with that date, but it was December 21, 2015, and I've watched videos of it more than 100 times, and I cry every time. That was 8 years ago. No one has even tried yet. So when you ask me, like, Warren, why are you so convicted about Tesla? It's like, well, he runs a company that did something incredibly important 8 years ago. China, with all their resources, has not even tried yet. What I see is all the other companies that are trying to make EVs. I'm leaving out the Chinese companies for a minute because I don't know them as well. But I'm talking about legacy auto, and then maybe some of the new startups in America. They're trying to catch up to the 2018 Model 3. They're not looking and saying, what's Tesla doing next? Let's try to do that only a year or two behind them. They're trying to get to where Tesla was 6 years ago, and they're not even succeeding. Hyperchange, I watched a lot of videos and I read a lot, and I started to see a lot more of why this company was going to be successful. And now I'm all in.
But anyway, last question on this is the moment that you start buying and buying more Tesla until the point that you got into almost 100%, could you sleep well at night during those times initially? Hi Warren, thank you very much for coming on our show. It's an honor, it's a pleasure to speak to you today. So just to share a little bit of background with the Thai investment community and the Thai fans, just want to start off with your background a little bit. How did you start your investing career, or how did you come to a thesis of investing in Tesla?
Sure, I would go back something like 30 years ago. I had lived in Japan. I moved back to the US to help my mother. My father had passed away. And one of the things I did was I managed her portfolio of assets. And along the way, I started building my own portfolio of investments. And at the time, it was more like mutual funds, and maybe starting to do exchange traded funds. Shifted from actively managed funds to passive index funds. And at a certain point, I decided to start playing. And I would take a small amount of money and invest in a stock here or a stock there. So I had some success with, I had noticed Cisco. I remember, for example, I noticed Cisco Systems, which is an internet hardware company, was doing really well, and it seemed like it was priced very high. And I just had the thought, let me look at other companies in that space. And I found a couple of companies, Foundry Networks, Juniper Networks, and F5 Networks, that I felt were competitive. Not that they were going to be bigger than Cisco, but they were competitive in the space, and they were much lower priced. That Cisco had a price premium because it was so large and had so much attention. So I invested in those stocks, and that did well. So I started playing and buying stocks here and there a little bit. My biggest success and biggest failure before Tesla was Amazon. I bought Amazon in 2013. So like F5 networks, I think 5x'd. Foundry networks went up maybe 3x. I forget how much before I sold them. So Amazon 13x'd. And so it's a great success because I bought Amazon, but it was my biggest mistake because I didn't buy enough. At that point, I had developed conviction, and this is an important term for the way I think about investing. I developed conviction that this is a stock I believe in. This isn't just like, okay, I'm managing a portfolio. Like, no. This company has something special, and I think I see something the market doesn't see. And so my biggest mistake was not buying more. I think I invested total of $10,000 in Amazon, right? So that turned into $130,000. That's pretty good, but I should have invested $50,000, $100,000 into Amazon, and I just didn't see it. So fast forward 2015, SpaceX lands the first orbital rocket booster. Falcon 9 launched. They've already had successful launches, but now they have the first booster landing at Cape Canaveral, Florida. December 21, 2015. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm obsessed with that date, but it was December 21, 2015, and I've watched videos of it more than 100 times, and I cry every time. And I saw that, and I said, well, wait a minute. And I was aware of Tesla. And I saw that, I said, okay, someone who can do that. Like, because no one had ever done that before.
Yes.
Not only at the time, no one had ever done that before. That was 8 years ago. No one has even tried yet. So when you ask me, like, Warren, why are you so convicted about Tesla? It's like, well, he runs a company that did something incredibly important 8 years ago. China, with all their resources, has not even tried yet. The big defense contractors that supply, you know, all these other rockets haven't even tried yet. The only one close is Rocket Lab, that they sort of tried to, they didn't try a propulsive landing, but they tried to capture and reuse a booster. And they didn't succeed, but they're the only ones that came close to trying.
Okay.
So that was 8 years ago. You would think China would just say, let's hire 10 retired SpaceX engineers, pay them $10 million a piece, and let's get reusability going. And for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. So when I look at Tesla, I see a company that's doing things that no one else has really caught up to yet, like over-the-air updates.
Okay.
Like, I have a 2018 Model 3 and a 2022 Model X Plaid. Go back to my 2018 Model 3. Has anyone really made an EV that's better than my 2018? You can even go back and say, like, the 2015 Model S. Has anyone else really made an electric vehicle that's better than the 2015 Model S? I don't think so. And certainly when you get to the Model 3, and then, so what I see is all the other companies that are trying to make EVs. I'm leaving out the Chinese companies for a minute because I don't know them as well. But I'm talking about Legacy Auto, and then maybe some of the new startups in America. They're trying to catch up to the 2018 Model 3. They're not looking and saying, what's Tesla doing next? Let's try to do that only a year or two behind them. They're trying to get to where Tesla was 6 years ago. And they're not even succeeding. So what happened was that rocket landed, and I started paying a lot more attention to Tesla because I couldn't invest in SpaceX.
Yes.
And I saw it, and I got it. So February 2016 is the first time I bought Tesla shares. And I just kept buying and buying. And there would be something like my mother would have some bonds in her portfolio, and the bonds would come due. And I would take the money from the bonds, and I would buy Tesla stock. And I would be looking at my portfolio and saying, you know, I think this stock, maybe Amazon went up too much. I think Amazon's at a good point here. I'm really convinced about Tesla. I sold my Amazon, and I bought Tesla. Now, Amazon doubled after I sold it. Tesla 5x'd.
It's a good decision.
It seems like a bad decision to sell a stock that 2x's. But when you put the money in a stock that 5x's, it doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah.
So as it's going along, and my mother passed away and now it's all mine. So I no longer have any sense of responsibility that I need to maintain any kind of balance. I no longer have a fiduciary duty to my mother because she's gone. So it's all mine now. It's a long story, but I got all of it, all of her Tesla stock, all of her assets. So all of her invested assets. So I put all of that basically into Tesla. I may have like 1% of my portfolio in other stocks. And I have some cash. I'm currently living this life in Thailand.
Yes.
And my cost of living here is dramatically lower than my cost of living in the US. And I have an uncertain income because I'm a YouTuber and content creator, and sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down, but I'm looking at the future saying, okay, how do I want to protect myself in case the income dries up?
Yeah.
So I had to have some cash handy because I have children in the US that occasionally need money, or And I have my own living expenses. So I have some cash set aside for living expenses, but otherwise I'm all in on Tesla. I think does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, for sure. And I think on the competitions you mentioned, we'll leave a little bit later in the show, but I just want to focus on your investment thesis because you share something very important there that your first success was Amazon stocks, and you also said it's a mistake at the same time.
It's my biggest success.
It's the biggest
My first success is outside of just generally investing.
Okay.
Were F5 Networks, Foundry Networks, and I think I bought Juniper Networks. I made some money on Apple. There was a moment when I bought Apple stock and it went up a lot because of it was before the iPhone.
Yeah.
I didn't jump on the iPhone, but they had certain moments where I saw something in Apple. So I had some other small successes. Amazon was my first big success in buying an individual stock. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Your biggest success. So I just want to help Thai investor understand that mindset a little bit because you use the word play at first, meaning from someone coming from you who's know a lot about fundamental about investing. That's why you use the word play when you went to say you play around and pick out all these stocks. So wanted to dig in your brain, how does it start from playing to become so confident about one stock where the previous fundamental books say you shouldn't own one stock at all, Warren. So please take me through that.
So I should give you a little more background. I was I majored in mathematical economic analysis at Rice University in Houston, Texas, which is a high-level university in America. I then went to get I was in a PhD program at Stanford University's business school, graduate school of business at Stanford. And so in both programs, I studied modern portfolio theory. Right? Yes. I studied the capital asset pricing model, arbitrage pricing theorem. I studied a lot of that. And I really understood the concept of a diverse portfolio.
Yes.
Of, managing your portfolio to optimize and all that stuff. And so I had that mentality, and that mentality drove the index investing.
Yes.
Mutual fund investing, index investing. You can get your diversification cheap and easy by just buying the market, basically. So the play was, okay, I can take 5% of my portfolio and I can test my ability as a stock picker. So that's play. And that's just sort of like, I have some extra money. Let me, we've got a bond dividend came in. I've got $1,000 or $5,000 that just came in, or the bond, whatever, cleared. What am I going to put that into the ETF, or am I going to put it in another bond? And like, well, why don't I pick a stock? Let me look around. I'm looking at, the stock filings, the SEC filings. I'm looking at things like how much dilution do they expect to have when they issue stock to employees. And I started picking some stocks here and there. The distinction was, and I should have seen this with Amazon, was I noticed, I'll use Amazon as an example of why I should have followed this path before. I became an Amazon Prime customer, and I noticed that I was on the Amazon website often. I was buying things from Amazon almost every day.
Yes.
I looked and I realized, wait a minute, I'm an early adopter. If I'm doing this now, more people are going to, and I'm still, by the way, I still love Amazon. I'm occasionally critical of Jeff Bezos, but I think Amazon is a great company. It is, and when I'm in America, it is my preferred choice of where to shop. When I'm in Japan, it is my preferred choice of where, it's not that great for Thailand. It's not terrible for Thailand. It's not great. Shopee and Lazada sort of dominate Thailand. But it is my first choice for where to shop. And so I saw that early, before others did. Amazon was not profitable. Its price earnings ratio was absurd because it was basically zero profit, zero earnings. And the market was talking about like, this price is too high, the price earnings ratio is too high. And I looked at it and I said, no, I see it now. Other people are going to start shopping on this. If I see it this way, other people will probably see it this way. I didn't see a competitor in the space who was going to compete like they do. And so I became I developed conviction. This company is going to succeed. This company is going to grow dramatically. Now, they succeeded in part because of Amazon Web Services, which I did not see. But their success as a shopping website really took off, and they're super successful. So fast forward to 2016, I've seen the rocket land. I'm looking into Tesla, and I'm like, there's something here. They've got something. This is special. Started buying stock.
Okay.
they succeed with, initially they struggle with the Model 3.
Yes.
2018 or so, they have the production ramp, production hell, whatever, but they get through it. And now they actually start making a small profit. They start delivering vehicles in higher volume. And I just started buying stock. By 2009, early 2020, I was very, very heavily into Tesla. And then the stock took off in 2020. And in 2019, I started making videos. First video I made in this, I had a channel for a long time, politics and law. And I didn't focus on it. It wasn't a big deal for me. And then I looked at something happened with SpaceX. I decided to make a video.
Okay.
The video got like 60,000 views. I got monetized again. I had been monetized in the past. I started making money, a little bit of money. I'm like, I should make another video. And I started diving deeper into understanding Tesla, the company. And I would say what I do as a YouTuber or content creator is I think I offer a unique perspective. I don't prepackage a pretty video to tell you a story to make you go, oh, that's a great story. I feel good now. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's sweet. It's like, what is it that I see in Tesla or some other company that other people haven't said yet? What am I seeing here that I think other people are missing? Where's some value here that people aren't getting?
Yes.
And so I started making videos and I started really understanding. I watched Dave Lee and I watched Rob Maurer and I watched Gali, Hyperchange. I watched a lot of videos and I read a lot. And I started to see a lot more of why this company was going to be successful. And now I'm all in.
Okay, that's great. So just one more question before we talk about why you're all in and my question would be, do you still believe in portfolio diversification? Will there be a point where you just go back once Tesla reach enough some sort of value? Will you go back to portfolio diversification, or has that thought, that methodology is gone for you?
I think portfolio diversification is a smart move for someone who doesn't have the time to invest their time to identify companies that deserve more asset allocation. If you are working 60 hours a week and you're making money and you're putting money away and you are not motivated, you don't understand it, and you're not willing to dive deep and really spend time and develop the conviction that you need to do what I'm doing, then I think portfolio diversification is a smart strategy. If you dig in and you say, wait a minute, I want to understand this. Okay, what's the criticism? What are the people who are saying this company is not going to succeed say? Are they right? Are they wrong? What are some other things that are out there that other people are just missing? You really kind of have to look around. Why is this company going to be successful? And what are the opportunities? A lot of people don't have that time. A lot of people don't have the experience, the training, the ability to read that level.
Agree.
My first advice to anybody would be, buy an ETF in the S&P 500.
Agree.
If you don't, but you have that moment where you see something and you say, hey, wait a minute. And like for me, it was early adopter. Like suppose you realize you're an early adopter and you've noticed something, you think this is going to be special, right? I see this now. I see this is going to be special.
Now with Tesla, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Meta, Facebook, right? I bought Facebook after the IPO, the stock dipped. And I thought I understood.
That was in the
Meta.
2000s, right? Was it?
I actually don't remember when, but I remember buying it after I thought the IPO price was high. It fell like 50% after the IPO, and I bought. I bought Google around the IPO. I was I was a search engine optimizer. Part of my work as an attorney, I built my law firm on search engine optimization, search engine marketing. So I understood. So I bought those. I did reasonably well on those.
Okay.
So, if you see something based on your knowledge, and then you can't just go with, well, I think this is going to be good. You have to start exploring what else is there. And then I would say the approach I followed of like, well, start with ETFs, start with an S&P 500 ETF, and then play.
Yeah.
Take 5% of your portfolio and
start confident
and start picking. And do you see something that's worth making a bet on? And get your feedback loop. Did that bet work? Spend a couple of years playing around. Did this work? Did this go the way I thought it would go?
Yeah.
And if at some point you develop conviction, then you start saying, am I going to break my 5% rule? Am I going to put more in? Am I going to go beyond play? So I think that's the approach I followed. I think it's a good approach.
Thank you for sharing, Warren. I think diversification, as you mentioned, the other Warren, Mr. Buffett, is still suggesting if you don't have time to follow the stocks or anything, just invest in the ETF or passive
the other
funds.
Warren.
Yeah, the other Warren. But anyway, last question on this is the moment that you start buying and buying more Tesla until the point that you got into almost 100%, could you sleep well at night during those times initially?
I've never had a problem sleeping with Tesla stock. Never. There's never been a moment. Stock goes up to 100. I don't get excited. Stock goes up to 400. I don't get excited. Stock goes down to 100. I don't panic. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm not. Here's a critical point in conviction investing. You have to know your time horizon. When do you think you might sell? Right? If you think you're going to sell in 3 weeks, then the current stock price matters a lot.
Yes.
If you don't think you're going to sell until 2032, then what difference does it make whether the stock falls to 100 or the stock goes to 400? It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I don't think I got overly excited when the stock went to 400. I didn't sell when the stock went to 400. I tend to buy, and I don't buy based on timing or when the stock hits a certain level. There have been moments when the stock fell so much, I was like, where can I find some extra cash to buy some stock? Right? But in general, I'm like, look, when I have cash, let me be clear. I think the stock is going to $5,000 a share. It's currently trading around 200.
Yes.
Right? I think it's going to 2,000 to 5,000, possibly to 10,000 or more. So whether you buy it at 400 or 200 doesn't matter a whole lot. If you think it's going to 5,000, 10,000.
Correct.
And if you try to play timing games, and it's at 250, and you think, well, I'm going to wait for it to dip to 200, and it never goes down to 200, and it goes up to 400, and you're like waiting for it to dip, and then it rises to 500. It's like, well, you're holding cash. What are you holding instead? And there's a thing with Tesla right now. You talk about the ability to sleep. Like, do you sleep well not investing in something you believe in? Like, suppose you believe in it. You think this is going to go to 10,000. You don't know when. You're confident.
It could be tomorrow.
Well, I do think there will be some notice. You'll get some notice that something's happening. But, if tomorrow they announce we're moving the nags from FSD, we're delivering FSD beta. It's no longer beta. We're delivering it in 10 countries, right? We just, we crossed the threshold. We've been testing this. This is working in China. This is working all over the US and Canada and Thailand and Europe, and we've cleared with regulators, and it's now available in 20 countries, no nags. Right? Well, that's a sign.
Understand, yeah.
Now, I think enough investors will see that, and the stock will double, triple, quadruple on that news. And if you wait till after that happens, you missed it.
Understand.
And it's also very likely that the Wall Streeters will not get it for 3 months. They don't model. Cathie Wood models this stuff. There's certain Wall Street types who say, well, this is where the stock is going if this happens.
Okay.
But I call him Barry Black, but the Gary Blacks, the Wall Street types, the Wall Street types don't model that stuff. They don't say, well, where could this go in the future? They're just like, well, I need to see an actual business. I need to see.
Let me ask you that on that point. Is that a fact, or is that the thoughts of retail investor thinking that they don't model, or is it a fact that they don't model?
I think that there are a large share. So Wall Street is not one person.
Okay.
There's many different types on Wall Street. But I think a large chunk of the classic Wall Street mentality that we hear about does not model something that they can't see. There are definitely people who are Wall Street types who do model these things. But I think the Gary Blacks of the world, like, he doesn't model, he openly says he doesn't model what he can't see.
I see.
And, that's the kind of investor who will not invest in Amazon.
Okay.
Right? In 2013.
Because they can't model it.
They're not going to invest in Apple when the iPhone comes out. Right? They're not going to invest in a second tier internet hardware company that's not profitable yet.
Okay.
Right? They don't see it. Right? If they don't see it, they don't see it. And it's just not their approach. And so you have to have that do I see the future in some way? Am I an early adopter? I see that I'm doing this. Other people are likely to do this. Is there some other, do you understand the market? Like I drive cars, right? I own cars, I drive cars, right? I can understand when I plug this into the wall, it costs me 1/4 what it costs to put gasoline in the car. Yeah. I understand I never need an oil change. I never need to get transmission fluid. Like how much money I'm saving by owning this car. I understand when I hit the accelerator and I go like this, oh, that's different. I mean, I had an Audi A4, I had an Acura MDX, I had some nice cars. This is different. This is next level. I get it. So there's a lot of different things that go into that. But if you just sort of casually see a stock and then you see some strange American with glasses and a bald head talking about a stock and you're like, oh, that guy sounds good. That's not enough for conviction investing. You don't develop conviction because Warren says so. You develop conviction because you believe it, because you've done your own research. So I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, that's perfect. So we have a lot of Tesla investors that follows the channel here in Thailand. And just one more question before we dig into all the FSD or the EV adoption rate and all. Just wonder how long did it take you to study, to build your own conviction on Tesla, or was it Amazon back then? Like, how long was it, or was it more like the experience you have around the product itself, or?
Right, I would say with Amazon, it was, I did not do the deep research, but I didn't invest that much money. You know, I invested 5% of my portfolio, or 10%, not even 10%, probably 5% or less of my portfolio in Amazon stock. With Tesla, it was a long process. You know, it was late 2000.
Years?
Yes. It was late 2015 when I started in researching it. It was February 2016 when I bought my first stock in Tesla. I started making videos in 2019. I was still investing along the way. I was still investing in 2020.
So from research until this point, it took
I would say
4 or 5 years.
Differently, it doesn't end. You don't stop researching. If you're convicted and you're 98% in on a company, you
gotta
stop.
keep going.
No, if you're not going to keep up and pay attention to what's happening, then look.
So talking about sleeping well, you mean you sleep well because you're still researching it. That's why you sleep well.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I didn't research the company for a month, would I be worried? No. I mean, I wouldn't trouble, but I think over time, it's what I sleep well in part because I'm just focused on it. It's what I do. It's why, I'm a content creator making videos about Tesla. I made a video about Tesla live stream last night. It's what I do. Yeah. I'm on the X platform constantly looking at what this guy said about it, what that guy said about it, what this critic said. I'm piecing it all together. Every time Tesla has an earnings call, an earnings report, an earnings call, I read that stuff carefully. I listen to the entire, I'll just give you an example. At the earnings call, Drew Baglino, who is the arguably number 2 guy at Tesla, mentioned when he was asked about 4680, the new battery cell, and he mentioned that they had more 4680s than they needed for a Cybertruck, and they're holding the extras for future vehicle programs. I was like, what?
What future
vehicle? Wait, I made a video. Nobody else picked up on that. They talked about the next generation factory.
Yes.
And I think, again, it was Drew. I'm not sure it was Drew at this one. It might have been Lars. It might have been Drew. It might have been somebody else. They were talking about, they're not just designing a new vehicle. They're designing a new factory. When you see a video or a picture of like a factory floor, you see these robots. Those are industry standard robots. They very clearly said they're re-engineering the robots. Their next factory line is not going to have industry standard robots. I mean, there may be a few, but the bulk of the automation in the next factory will be custom designed robots to build the next generation vehicle.
So now they're designing machines that build those machines.
They specifically said in the call, they're designing the machine that builds the machines that build the machines.
Wow, now it's...
That next, we're not going to see it until 2025. At the end of 25, that next generation factory is going to be next level. Going to be so complete. I think it's going to blow everyone's mind.
Let me interrupt you before we go further into this. But when you mentioned earlier that you've been checking X, Twitter, and then seeing all these announcements on news, how do we fact check all these Tesla news that's online? Because it's all over the place. One day I hear that, the new factories, Giga Mexico is coming up. The other one I hear that it's not. What's your strategy on this?
Well, I don't worry about short-term facts. I don't worry about short-term stories. I don't think that's important. I think you want to pay attention to what this guy says and what this guy says and what this guy says and what are the critics saying. And you want to patch together everything that's coming together to see, what is happening here.
Okay.
And I don't think you can rely on any one source. You could just read, there's a YouTube, an ex-creator named Sawyer Merritt.
Yes.
If you just followed Sawyer, you'd get all the sort of standard Tesla news.
Breaking news.
But I follow probably more than 100 accounts.
Okay.
I read Elon's posts and replies every day.
Okay.
Probably more than once a day.
Is that required though for someone who want to heavily invest in Tesla to follow Elon closely?
I wouldn't say it's required. I enjoy it. I don't think that's necessary.
Has the thought of enjoying Elon's tweet and comment or talking about the futures, would that be a concern if someone takes that in too much and then start putting in their investing theory?
Well, no, I follow Elon. I look at people who are criticizing Elon. Elon's the center of the company, right? But I also follow Drew Baglino, Martin Vieck is the director of investor relations. I follow Tom Zhu. I follow
so it's not just everything that comes from Elon.
Rohan Patel is director of public policy at Tesla, and then I follow other people in the space. There's people who are critical of Tesla, and I follow them. And I don't think you have to go. I'm doing this because I'm a content creator. Okay. I don't think you need to go to the level I go to. I don't think you need to analyze the stock on a daily basis. I think you can drive yourself. I do it because I find it entertaining, and I'm not just looking at Tesla. I'm looking at what's happening with X. I'm looking at what's happening with SpaceX. I'm very excited about the Boring Company. I'm very excited about Neuralink. I'm very excited about other companies that are in the vague area. Rivian. Is Rivian going to make it? I probably made more videos about Lucid Motors than anyone else, other than maybe. I'm the only large YouTuber who's made a high volume videos about Lucid Motors. I called Lucid Motors back in September of 2020 when everybody else said this is going to be amazing, and I said this company's a fraud. So I think I'm also pretty good at spotting, because they'll say
I've seen that video.
They'll say this is a Tesla killer. This company's got a Tesla killer, and the Tesla killers keep coming and going. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Okay, how are they going to manufacture at scale? Why are people going to buy this car over that car? How much money are they losing per car? So I'm excited. I think Rivian has a chance of making it. Okay. I think that BYD is a very exciting company. I don't follow Chinese companies. It's hard for me to understand the accounting. I don't know if you can trust the accounting, and I don't know how much of their money is coming from government subsidies and when they're going to be cut off.
The growth is real, but you're saying the finance behind it, the accounting, is something we
certainly see a lot. I'm sure you see them too. We see a lot of BYDs on the road here.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with them from what I see from the outside. I haven't been inside one yet, but I think they look like good cars. Elon says the Chinese are very competitive. He wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say that about a competitor if you didn't think they were real. Okay. And I actually don't think that this is actually, I want a brief point. I don't see BYD as a competitor to Tesla. BYD is a partner. BYD is a supplier to Tesla. Currently in the world, something like 90 to 95% of all vehicles sold are gasoline vehicles.
Yes.
Whether they're partial hybrids or full, gas vehicles. And so any EV that's close to as good as a Tesla, the big question is it better than gas cars? Because if 95% of the market is gas cars, then why would you compete with the 5% that are EVs? You want to compete with the 95% you're clearly better than, and that's a much bigger pool.
Let's talk about this, because some arguments say that you don't view BYD and Tesla as competitors because the more EV sells, then the more supply chain expand. It helps each other, right? People to convert to EVs. But is it because of BYD growth that was so fast that was forced Tesla in the short term, though, to reduce the car price, to sustain the sales in China?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I think they're operating generally speaking, Tesla vehicles are a higher level vehicle than a BYD. I think they're probably $10,000. Their price, it's not like they're priced competitively with each other. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what BYD pricing is in China. I don't know what BYD pricing is here. My general sense is that a BYD vehicle is probably priced $10,000 less than a typical Tesla. My guess would be that Tesla software is better than BYD software. My guess would be that, I mean, not a guess. I think BYD EVs are almost all iron cathode, lithium iron phosphate battery packs. I don't think BYD uses nickel-based battery packs yet.
No, it's out of piece.
Not to my knowledge. Tesla's premium vehicles are nickel-based. So there's just a fundamental difference between the companies. But again, if 90% of the market is gas cars, then your competition is the gas cars. And, you know, the biggest point is BYD sells batteries to Tesla. They sell blade battery packs to Tesla.
Yes.
Does that sound like a competitor? That sounds like a partner. Elon refers to them as partners. He refers to battery suppliers as partners.
Yeah. BYD as well refer to Tesla as not competitors.
No, and if you go 8 years from now, right? Let's say 2030, so 6 years from now, the world has changed and now 80% of new vehicles sold are EV. Well, now other EV makers might be your competition. If you still view yourself as an EV maker instead of an AI robotics company.
Yeah. We have to talk about that. So let me keep going on this. On Chinese EVs, maybe give you a couple months in Thailand, you see more EVs around, and maybe we dig into more how Chinese EVs are set up against Tesla. But today let's talk about other things in general. Let's talk about EV adoption first, because recently, you know, there's a lot of critics coming out and saying that the EV adoption has slowed, or even some even say it has peaked, or, you know, that's why Tesla and all these cars need to reduce price because the demand is not there. All the people who willing to buy EVs have already bought. What's your thought on that? And the fact that the sales have been slightly slower than expected recently.
I think that's total nonsense.
Please take us your thought.
I think if you look, I just recently posted, and I think I just deleted it from my phone. I just posted an image that I saw. Peak internal combustion engine auto was around 2016. If you want to see something that's declining, it's internal combustion engine vehicle sales. It's like a steep slope down, like 30 degree. It's like going down fast, and EVs are just growing. Now, is there going to be a 3-month window where EVs don't surge? Sure. But what's the path? The path is that, and I think there's an engineering issue here. There's a lot of engineers at any car company, and they're working to squeeze a little bit more efficiency out of that engine. They're working to squeeze a little bit more improvement out of that car. But they've been doing it for 100 years. They're close to what I would call, they're asymptoting.
Yeah.
The potential to continue getting more efficiency out of a 4-cylinder, 1.8 liter turbocharged engine, you're kind of up against that wall, right? I had an Audi A4 of 2002 that had a 1.8 liter turbocharged engine. If you look at the engines that Audis are running now, it's a 2-liter version of the same engine.
Not much difference.
It's a little more efficient. They've probably gotten another 5% out of that over 20 years, right? But how much efficiency are EVs going to get over the next 20 years? How much more are they going to improve over the next 20 years? How much are battery prices falling? I don't know if you saw the report that CATL expects their battery prices to fall by 50% in the next few years.
That just came out recently.
Yeah. So one of the most expensive things in an EV is the battery. If the price of the batteries is going to fall by 50%, well, then the cost of the vehicles is going to fall.
Yes.
If they're going to figure out ways of making more efficient motors, so the next generation vehicle for Tesla is going to use less expensive motors. Rivian just adopted a different motor, right? Their first motor for their R1S and R1T was a very expensive motor, very difficult to source. They had a lot of issues with it. They came out with a new motor array. And, you know, Rivian just got started. So as Tesla figures out, hey, we can do a motor without rare earths. Hey, we can reduce silicon carbide. As different companies figure out different improvements, then all of a sudden EVs are going to improve much faster than internal combustion engine vehicles.
So you're saying combustion engine there's not much improvement they can do, whereas the EVs, everyone is improving their cost, the way of production, like either battery or motors, efficiencies and everything. So the reason why the EV right now, we hear the narrative that is slowed down, you believe it is just a little, maybe because of the economics, or you think it's just media playing the news? Like what do you think is going on right now currently with EVs? Because the shares of a lot of EVs company are really down right now. That's for real.
Well, I don't worry about the momentary stock price. Are they building new factories? Yep. Are they ramping up the factories they have? Yep. Are the companies that make batteries making more batteries? Yep. Are they expanding to new markets? Yep. I mean, like, how long has Tesla been selling cars in Thailand?
Okay.
Not very long, but all of a sudden I'm in Siam Paragon and boy, there's a store here and there's all these people looking at these Teslas. And I don't know if you're seeing it. I feel like when I first got here, I almost never saw a Tesla. I got here in early December and I would see maybe a Tesla once a week. Now I feel like I see 3 a day, right?
It's gotten a lot more nowadays in Thailand.
Now, we're in the Sukhumvit area of Bangkok where you're going to see more Teslas.
Yes.
I was just in Lopburi. I didn't see any Teslas in Lopburi. No. Right? It's going to take time to spread around the country. I don't think there's a supercharger in Lopburi yet, right?
It needs supercharger.
So that's going to take time.
Okay.
But, I think the real game changer for Tesla from a vehicle perspective, there's a lot of other things going on with Tesla, but the real game changer from a vehicle perspective is they're going to start manufacturing the next generation vehicle, I think in 2025, late 2025. We're going to start seeing it on the road in 2026, and it's going to change the game.
Okay.
They're not going for let's make a slight improvement in how we make a Model 3. Let's make a slightly smaller Model Y. That's not what they're doing. They're like, how can we completely redesign how we build a car? So our cost of building the car is half. That's what they said, right? That's what they said at an earnings call. It was either Investor Day or earnings call. Drew Baglino, I think Elon said something to Drew, and Drew said, half the footprint, half the cost, twice the volume. That's the target for the next generation vehicle factory. Half the factory footprint, half the cost to manufacture the vehicle, twice the volume. That's a very, very different vehicle from let's just make a smaller Model Y. Right? Model Y is very successful. If Tesla was just following the normal path, they would say, hey, this Model Y is great. Let's make a smaller one that we can't do a third row in it. We'll make it 3 centimeters narrower. We'll make it 5 centimeters shorter. Right? We'll make it a little shorter in height, length, whatever. Yeah. Make a smaller package. We'll make it the same way. We'll use the same equipment. And it'll cost us, 35,000 baht less or 70,000 baht less to make the car. They're not playing that game. They're playing, okay, it's costing us 350,000 baht to make this thing. Let's see if we can make it for 200,000 baht. Right? Okay. That's a totally different game.
A lot of people don't understand why Tesla is playing that game. Because you can see all these now car companies, especially the Chinese one, when they come out, they try to cover the whole segment. Like BYD has covered from very low price to high price. And it's almost illogical for Tesla not to try to get into the cheaper price car market share because that's the biggest market share. So when we talk to a lot of people, they feel like maybe Tesla cannot do it or something. They just feel illogical why Tesla is not going to rush into capturing that segment, which is the biggest. So what's your thought?
So what Tesla does is they manufacture at extremely high volume and they get extreme economies of scale. So if Tesla said, hey, we're going to make a new model, like what are they selling? They're selling 1 million, maybe they're going to sell 1.5 million Model Ys next year, right? Maybe they're going to sell 1.5 million Model Ys this year. And they're doing it in 4 factories? 4 factories.
4 factories, yeah.
Right. So if you said, well, let's make a smaller vehicle, we'll sell 100,000 of them. Well, you're not going to get the economies of scale, right? If you look at, say, BMW, which is a really good example, you'll have all these variants on the 3 Series.
Yeah.
Right. We'll have a 2-door version. We'll have a 4-door version. We'll have an estate version, like a station wagon. We'll have an SUV version, the X3. And they make all these variants, and then they don't achieve economies of scale on any one vehicle. Right? So Tesla's approach is, look, this is a really idealized vehicle that fits in this very large segment. Right? Model 3 is in a very large segment. Model Y is in a ridiculously large segment. We can make this vehicle, we can get as many efficiencies of scale, economies of scale as we can out of this vehicle, and then we can capture a really large part of this market. And what happened? Best-selling vehicle in the world. Not best-selling EV in the world. Okay. Best-selling vehicle in the world.
Good, yes.
Not a close call. There's no close number 2. Number 2 is hundreds of thousands of vehicles less a year. And it's growing.
Yes.
So the vision for the next generation, you can put your engineering resources into making a vehicle that will sell another 100,000, 200,000 units.
Yes.
Or you can put your engineering resources into, let's make a vehicle we can sell 6 million a year. or a platform where we can sell 6 million a year. That's what they're going for. So you can have a CEO who says, hey, we can eke out a little bit of extra if we sell a vehicle that's this. Let's make a 2-door. Let's make a convertible. Let's make, this. Let's play games with this a little bit here. Like, I think Tesla should make a new Model X. They should make a larger Model Y. Right? Now, the reason I say this with Model X is because Model X will never, that class of vehicle will never be high volume.
Okay.
It will never be 1 million units a year.
But the thought of the management that always want to take that big leap instead of just capturing, small volume here and there first, you're not concerned about that logic at all. If they can't do it, then, that's a lot of time that's waste, a lot of resources went into the...
I'm not concerned about it. I'm embracing it. I think it's the correct path. I think it's the same thing with SpaceX, right? SpaceX could have just made a more efficient rocket. They said, no, let's capture the booster.
Okay.
Let's save $50 million a launch. Well, that was a very, very hard engineering challenge. But now they have 80% of the global launch market, maybe 90.
Okay.
And their launch cost is lower than everyone. Their launch cost is so low they can build their own satellite network because they have extra launch capacity. And that satellite network is now going to be the best satellite network in the world. You need a founder CEO who has a vision and understands execution. And that's, by the way, one of the things that I really look for is founder CEOs.
Okay.
If you have some guy who's an accountant who comes in and becomes CEO of the company, but he's not the founder, he doesn't have the vision, he doesn't have the ability to make big changes, then you're not going to get revolutionary change. Tesla's going for revolutionary change. They're not going to be like a little bit better than the next car company. They're going to change the market. They're changing the world.
But that's an important thesis to understand if you want to be a Tesla investor, right? Because if you read in the headlines and what the Wall Street are thinking, they're going to be attacking Tesla on why they're slow into capturing these small markets, where what you're explaining is they're going for something bigger.
Yeah.
So it must be important to understand that.
Well, I mean, and that's just one of the things they're going for. They're going to make the cars drive themselves. I have 2 Teslas. They both have FSD beta. I've driven maybe not 100,000 kilometers, but maybe 80,000 kilometers on either FSD beta or autopilot. And it's completely different. They're revolutionizing transportation. This is going to change everything. Like, ultimately, robo-taxis are going to make BTS irrelevant.
BTS. People don't know the SkyTrain in Thailand.
Yeah, the BTS, the MRT, like the New York City subway, with boring company tunnels and all these other, there's going to be some radical changes in the world in the next 10, 20 years. And Tesla is one of the companies that's driving that change.
Okay, take us through it, because earlier in the show you said $5,000. When is that coming, in your opinion, and what does a company got to do to reach that point?
Sure. My models, I have models for Tesla's long-term future. One of the models that I no longer use anymore, I call the battery revenue model, which the idea is how many batteries does Tesla, how many kilowatt hours or gigawatt hours of products, in other words, you make a Model Y, it has a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack in it. Okay, you make 1 million of them. Well, that's 60 kilowatt hours times 1 million, right? That's 60 gigawatt hours, right? How much revenue or profit, how much revenue are you making in dollars per gigawatt hour or dollars per kilowatt hour? So at the time, Tesla was making more than $500 a kilowatt hour. In other words, you sell my fictional Model 3, 50 kilowatt hour pack, $30,000 at $600 a kilowatt hour.
Okay.
Right? You sell a Powerwall, 13.5 kilowatt hours, $10,000, it's about $800 a kilowatt hour.
Why do you stop using it?
I'm not as confident. In my conviction, I'm not as confident at Tesla scaling to the volume I expected.
And the margin is...
And it's really hard to see the dollars per kilowatt hour. I think that the compelling models for Tesla's future are, do they solve self-driving and deploy a robo-taxi network? And do they solve the humanoid robot and start selling bot services or selling humanoid robots? And with the cars, with the self-driving, I don't think it's crazy to predict that we will see a Tesla robo-taxi network within the next 3 to 5 years. Maybe sooner, but 3 to 5 years is a good ballpark, before 2030. And then, really simple model. Tesla has its own fleet. This is an oversimplification, Okay, this is just to make it simple. The market will probably be more complicated than this, but I try to simplify things. Call it napkin math. A term somebody might use is napkin math. Elon actually came up with SpaceX based on napkin math in an airplane.
It's powerful.
So Tesla has 10 million robo-taxis.
Yeah.
They make $50,000 a year in gross profit per vehicle. Well, that's $500 billion a year in gross profit. Okay. They made $20 billion in profit last year.
How many times that?
So that's 25x. Okay. And the long-term market for robotaxi is probably 100 million or more, making $20,000 a year in gross profit. Which you're all right, you've cut the number, you've cut the profit per vehicle by 2.5x, but you've increased the volume of vehicles by 10x. So you just 4x, and now you're at $2 trillion a year in gross profit. These sound like crazy numbers, but it's like, well, tell me why this doesn't happen.
Okay.
Right? So that's one. And number two, you've got the humanoid robot. So imagine you run a small business. Now, sorry, I'm not going to use Thailand wages for this. I'm going to use American
US,
wages
okay,
for this.
go ahead.
Okay, because the market is big enough in the United States and Europe and Japan to make this make sense.
Thai wages will not work. Yeah.
It
take
would
longer.
work. It would not achieve the same numbers.
Yeah.
And that's a down the road thing when there's enough
scale,
when there's enough bots to replace. You know, the Thai minimum wage is $10 a day. The American minimum wage is $20 an hour. In some places, $25. In California, some are going to $50 an hour.
Yeah.
So if you have let's call it a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you have 10 workers, okay? And the bot isn't able to do all the work of any one worker, but it does enough work that you could say, we only need 9 workers now.
So you place one.
Right? So you replace one worker. Now in America, if that worker costs the company, costs the restaurant $20 an hour, which is a good ballpark estimate of what it costs to pay a worker in a McDonald's restaurant in America, not the wage, but the wage plus all the benefits and the other expenses you have of having that worker.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have 10 workers on a shift and you replace one, you just save $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Times 2,000 hours is $40,000. Times 2 shift is $80,000. The bot works for 10 years. You just saved $800,000. How much does it cost to make a bot?
Yeah.
$10,000? $5,000? Well, what's the margin if it costs you $10,000 to make the bot and it does $800,000 worth of work? And the owner, the buyer pays you only $100,000. You only capture $100,000 of the $800,000 in value you created.
Yeah.
You just got 90% margins. Well, what's the market for that? And that's when it's only able to do enough work to replace one worker in a McDonald's. What about when it replaces 5?
Here's the question though, Warren. I don't think any investor doubt the economics of the FSD or the bots that you explained. But people maybe doubt that Tesla will they ever achieve that? Which you said you have no doubt. Really, Warren?
I didn't say I have no doubt.
What's the risk on that?
Well, it's certainly a risk that they never get there. But if you follow the development of machine learning, artificial intelligence, I would say watch the Google AlphaGo documentary.
You still believe in the path? Is they're going down the right path, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel of this path?
Well, let me ask you a question. What is it that's so difficult about driving that AI won't be able to do it?
I don't think I know AI enough to answer that question, but maybe some fast reaction on the scenario that I've never seen before.
Reaction time is faster than human.
I mean, but on a scenario that maybe doesn't occur often. Some sort of...
How do humans do with scenarios that don't occur often?
Not well.
Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be better than human.
Okay.
So, but I mean, just look at I use ChatGPT often. If you and I asked you earlier about a business idea that I'm pursuing.
Yes.
I treated you as a sounding board, right? A sounding board is someone who I'm able to bounce ideas off of and you give me some feedback. ChatGPT is a better sounding board than any human I've ever talked to.
Yes.
I can ask ChatGPT about my diet, my exercise, my podcast startup, my girlfriend, my family relationships. I can ask it about the beef industry in Argentina. I can ask it about astrophysics. It knows more on any topic, on every topic than anyone I know. There may be some particular topic where I have a friend who knows more than ChatGPT, but on a broad array of topics, it knows everything, basically.
For sure.
And so no one saw that coming until ChatGPT 3. So if you're following Tesla's AI and what they're doing, and you see it, there's two questions. Can they get there and will they get there first? And if, as I understand machine learning, it's you want to get a lot of data and you want to have a lot of computing power. Well, nobody has the data that Tesla has.
Yes.
5-6 million cars driving around collecting data. Nobody has that. Nobody. Nobody's even, what did I say about SpaceX? They landed that rocket booster 8 years ago. Nobody else has even tried yet. No one else has built a network of cars yet. I mean, they told us what they were doing in 2019 at Autonomy Day.
Yeah.
They told the world, this is what we're doing. We're building a fleet of cars that's going to collect a lot of data. We're building the supercomputer training system to train on that data. No one else built the network of cars.
I mean, to be fair, the idea is so big that I don't think anyone would have the courage to pursue that. So
okay. So do you want to invest in the company that has the courage to do that? Or do you want to invest in some company that wants to make a car a little bit better, that wants to sell an extra 50,000 cars in this niche market? Or do you want to invest in the company that says, we want to build a factory that's so amazing that we can sell 6 million of one platform? And we want to develop technology that can drive cars and save 1 million lives a year from car accidents and radically change the lives of all kinds of people and make their lives better, safer, cleaner.
Okay.
What do you want to invest in? I want to invest in somebody who wants to change the world for the better.
I understand your conviction now. So my next question would be, so given that conviction, Warren, if somehow the management want to take that big leap, right? We talk about how Tesla management thinks differently. They want to change the world. They want to do something different, not just picking pennies off the highway. But what if 4680 batteries doesn't scale as they wish for another few years? If somehow the factory in Mexico is delayed, and if the FSD, autonomous driving, is not solved for the next 10 years, for example, because the management is aiming for that, big change. How should Tesla investor manage the risk of this, of anything? Like,
sure.
How would you, if this happened, what would you do?
So first of all, I don't think 4680 is that important.
Wow, that's interesting.
4680 is important. It's not that important. CATL makes a high volume of lithium iron phosphate batteries. The next generation vehicle will probably use lithium iron phosphate batteries.
Okay.
I think now the majority of Tesla vehicles are using lithium iron phosphate batteries.
So you think that might be a turnaround in that?
Now, the other point is 4680 is already successful. I don't understand what people are talking about.
The scaling is not.
Well, first of all, they're making batteries. They're in Cybertruck. They're selling Cybertruck.
Yes.
They only have one line.
But they have to U-turn the plan on Model Y, right? In order to support the Cybertruck.
No, I don't think that's... Look, it turned out that 4680 and Model Y wasn't that critical. Model Y was not engineered for 4680.
Okay.
So they're re-engineering everything, but they're making more 4680s than they need for Cybertruck. And they have 7 more lines. They have one line producing cyber cells. They have 7 more lines coming up in the next year or so. And they have a whole new factory coming up in Nevada to make more. If they just go with the method they have today to make 4680s, it's good enough.
Okay.
But of course they're going to continue the engineering and getting better and better and better. So, but it's not that critical. If they only made vehicles with lithium iron phosphate, in a robotaxi world, that doesn't matter.
Okay.
So 10 years, there's some risk. Whatever you invest in, there's always some risk. I mean, look, maybe there's going to be a nuclear war.
No, but apart from that, though, Tesla specific risk.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying maybe China's going to invade Taiwan and that's going to screw everything up, right?
I understand that's a risk.
There's all kinds of risks out there. And for me, it's like, look, what's the probability that they fail to deliver self-driving in 10 years? To me, that's a very, very small probability. You have to put in your head, what's the probability of this outcome? What's the probability of that outcome? And even if they don't deliver self-driving, what if they don't deliver self-driving, but they do deliver Optimus, the bot? The bot is worth more than the car.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that.
What if they don't deliver Optimus, but they deliver self-driving? What if they don't deliver either, but they deliver 20 million cars in 2032?
Okay. So you're saying you already have...
So here's the downside, okay? They fail on Optimus, they fail on FSD, but they succeed on the next generation vehicle platform. Okay, and they deliver 20 million vehicles in 2032. I'm going past 2030 and say it's 2032. And they deliver 20 million vehicles, and the cost of the vehicle to manufacture is half the cost of making a Model Y. And they make 25% margins on that car. Are we going to be okay?
That takes us past the current valuation by far.
By far, yeah. I think that's a 10x.
Okay.
And then what about Megapack? What about Powerwall? What about solar? There's so many other things going on.
Let's talk about that because people don't talk about that enough.
What about the van? Yeah.
What about the solar pack, mega packs and all that? What do you think is real impact in the next 5-10 years on Tesla Energy?
That's a hard one. So they have the factory in Lathrop, California that is ramping to full production this year. They have a factory in Shanghai that I don't think is producing battery packs yet. I'm not sure they finished building it. My expectation is they're going to get the manufacturing system down for Megapack, and all of a sudden you're going to see Megapack factory here, Megapack factory here, Megapack factory here, and you're going to start seeing them popping up because they need more than 20 Megapack factories. Maybe they need 40 Megapack factories of the scale that they have now. My gut hunch would be they're probably going to come up with a new Megapack factory that's smaller and produces twice as much volume, right? That's just the way they do things. But Megapack is a game changer for utilities. It's a game changer for large businesses that they can store electricity. You go to Chulalongkorn University, you'll see on top of Mabung Krong.
Top of
there's solar panels on top of Mabung Krong. Like, what if they had a Megapack in the building and they were able to store that electricity and use it at night? How much money would they save?
Okay. You tell me to think about probability.
Yeah.
And you said the probability of solving autonomous in the next 10 years, of not solving it is very low. Yeah. What about the energy side? What's the probability that the world is not needed or not using all these Megapacks, power pack, battery utilities?
Unless somebody solves nuclear fusion, I don't see a problem.
So you think the probability also very low that the world will not use it?
I think even if the world does solve nuclear fusion, we're probably still going to want to have Megapacks to store electricity.
Okay.
Because you have peak demand and shallow demand. So I think you're probably still going to want to store electricity. So I'm trying to think of a scenario where you don't want battery storage, and I can't think of one.
You can't think of one, okay.
Other than nuclear war apocalypse and the world is destroyed and then we don't need them.
Maybe afterward we might need them even more.
Unfortunately, they won't work, but yeah.
So is it safe to say, can I conclude that in your mind, the way you're investing in Tesla fully is because you think you already have many eggs separated in different business unit of Tesla itself? Can you elaborate?
Yeah. No, they have multiple startups within the company. Some we don't even know about, and I think that it comes down to that I see not just Elon, but I see a team. You watch their events. You watch Autonomy Day. You watch Battery Day. You watch Autonomy Day 2. You watch their presentations about how they're doing things. You see that they have a phenomenal team. They attract the best engineers in the world, and they do amazing work. Okay. And I think when you start thinking, the real game is who's going to solve artificial general intelligence. I'm not sure what it means to solve artificial general intelligence, but I think Tesla has an angle on solving artificial intelligence that no one else does because they have an AI that's understanding the world. The physical world. Yep. Nobody else is developing AI that truly understands the physical world. So there's so many different plays within Tesla. And then you have the guy running the company is the guy who landed the orbital rocket booster. You've got the company that built the first EV that everyone else is still trying to catch up to.
Is that person still concentrated on the company though? In your thought?
He wasn't then. He devoted 50% of his time to SpaceX all along. People think that he's distracted. He's always been distracted. He's got 10 kids or 9 kids. He's got girlfriends. He's distracted.
Okay. So no concern on that.
I'm just going to close with this.
Please.
One of Elon's greatest strengths that is massively underappreciated is his ability to build great teams. Not only his ability to build great teams, but his success in building great teams. So if you think Tesla is run by Elon Musk and without Elon the company doesn't succeed, you're missing a great team. If you think SpaceX, there's people who say, oh, Elon didn't do anything, he just hired a bunch of engineers. Yeah, well, Jeff Bezos hired a bunch of engineers and he hasn't launched a rocket to orbit yet.
True.
So Elon took less money than Bezos and built a better team that delivered results. So Boring Company is delivering results with tunneling. Neuralink is delivering results with brain. He's building great teams, and he shows up. Maybe he gives Boring Company an hour a month.
Yeah.
Right? And they talk about what they're doing, and he gives some feedback on engineering. Neuralink, he probably gives 5 hours a month, and he shows up. Tesla, he's given 50, 100 hours a month. SpaceX, he's given 50 or 100 hours a month. And he's giving feedback, and he's understanding the engineering, and he's addressing a whole bunch of issues. He's putting lots of time into Tesla, and he gets it.
So that skill you're saying is still underrated. The Wall Street,
almost no one appreciates his team building skills.
Okay.
I almost never see anyone talk about it. Not even in the pro Tesla community. People don't see it.
Okay, Warren, last question. I'll buy you a bit of time. Yeah. So last question. What do you say though to right now there's people are saying that the Tesla investor, especially the all-in Tesla investor or the Tesla hyperbull, are sort of like stuck in their own echo chambers where they will never be convinced to sell Tesla stock or come out of their original thesis. What do you say to them, and what's your thought?
If I was in an echo chamber, why would I be arguing with people who say something different? Look at Stephen Mark Ryan. I don't watch Stephen Mark Ryan's videos solving the money problem. Stephen is constantly looking at what other people are saying about Tesla and dissecting what they're saying. An echo chamber would be, I only watch Stephen's videos and I don't watch anybody else's. And Stephen only watches my videos and he doesn't watch anybody else's. We watch what critics are saying about Tesla and we try to understand what they're saying. And if I can't take apart their argument, then I know I have a problem. But I have never seen a critic of Tesla say anything that made any sense. And I try to make it make sense.
How do you ensure that you're trying your best and being very logical about it while investing in it, the company?
I do the best I can. I have an analytical mind. I look at what they're saying and I say, okay, does that make sense? And I try to piece it together. And, the competition is coming. The competition is coming. The competition is coming. The competition is coming. I think we've beaten that horse. That horse is dead. Okay? Elon's distracted. Well, Elon was distracted. Show me some analysis that says something different from the same, I don't know if it's okay for me to swear, the same bullshit stories that they've been saying about Tesla for however long. Like, look, nothing, they still have great teams. They're still innovating better than anyone else. I'm waiting for somebody to show me where's the failure, where's the problem, where's the competition that's actually going to change the game. And Elon will be the first to say, Chinese are making great EVs. That's not a problem. The market is too big.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in next episode. Hopefully we have you back to discuss, EVs and then Chinese competitions. But any last words for the Thai fans, Warren, to close it off?
No, go to Siam Paragon, and go to the store. And they now have 3 Teslas there. They have 2 Model Ys and a Model 3, the new Model 3. Check them out, sit in them, see if you can get a test drive. And if you can, buy a Tesla. They're the best cars in the world. They're the safest cars in the world. They're the best cars in the world.
Okay. Thank you very much, Warren. It's an honor to speak to you today.
All right. Thank you.